Previously on Professor Thorgy's Top 100 Comics of 2016. All of these. We talked about all of these books. I'm not going to give you a complete summation of the last episode. We talked about 50 freaking comics on it. Just go and watch it. There's a card popping up right there. There you go. Click on that. Alright, now that you've watched that, we're going to be covering today number 50 through 26. Let's begin. Number 50, Green Arrow. I have always been a fan of Oliver Queen, but I've always been more a fan of him in other books, like when he popped up in Justice League or when he was on the Justice League cartoon. I never really read many of his own series, so when I picked up the new Rebirth Green Arrow series, this to me felt like the Green Arrow series I had been waiting for. This was the book that really captured everything that I loved about Oliver Queen, and considering the fact that Oliver Queen kind of got screwed over in the New 52, this was a redemption on so many levels. Take all that and throw in a great love story building between him and Black Canary, and this easily is one of the best books to come out of Rebirth. Number 49, Manifest Destiny. Maybe it's just me, maybe it's just because I love horror and creepy, weird southern stuff, but I have no idea why this book is not on more people's best of the year list. Manifest Destiny is the story of Lewis and Clark setting out to explore the new world, only to discover there's demons out there. And this series has been going for numerous years, but this was the year in which we finally got to see what's waiting for them when they get to the end of their journey, and it was something none of us could have expected, and it really makes me want to know what's going to happen when they get there. Number 48, Wicked and Divine. I will go ahead and admit, last year when they started telling the individual stories about each of the different gods, I kind of dropped off Wicked and Divine a little bit. I still kept up with it, but I just wasn't that passionate about it. So this year, when it came back and returned to the primary story, and we got to see the big battle between these gods turning on each other, it really was impressive. It was something this series had been building up to, and it left me wondering what's going to happen next. Number 47, Faith. Faith has been one of the most popular characters to come out of Valiant Comics, and this was the year when she finally got her own series, and it was exactly what fans had been asking for. I had always loved this character when she popped up in the Harbinger series, so I was kind of nervous that this writer wouldn't really be able to capture her voice in her own series, but she did a wonderful job. This is exactly the book that this character deserves. This is a superhero series about a superhero fan who wants to go out there into the world and just make a difference and just be a message for positivity. It is such an uplifting and fun series. Number 46, Weird World. I am genuinely upset that this book did not sell better. Mike Del Mundo created one of the most original and beautiful looking worlds in this series. The two protagonists were fantastic. I wanted to see all the crazy stuff that they would encounter as they went across this bizarre Bermuda Triangle of existence. Yet the series ended up getting canceled after only 6 issues, but those 6 issues were so freaking good I still had to put it this high on the list. At number 45, Interceptor. This is one of the most badass comics I have ever read in my life. This is a science fiction story about mankind thousands of years in the future after they have left the planet Earth because it was crumbling apart, so they went and colonized space. But now they're revealing the truth. They didn't actually leave Earth because of the environment or because of any of the other reasons that they had been told. No, they left Earth because of vampires. The planet Earth was being overrun by vampires, and now vampires have started to develop spaceships to chase man into space, so they are sending back to Earth the most badass soldier that they have ever created. She's been trained in all the ways to take down vampires. She's got a holy mech suit. It is just an incredibly crazy fun book that with every single issue just kept getting bigger and bigger. Number 44, Ether. This book would be way higher on the list if more than 2 issues of it had come out last year. This is a series about a scientist who discovers a portal into the world of magic, and he keeps going back and forth between the real world and the magic world, and when he goes into the magical world, he's kind of a detective over there. He doesn't believe in magic. He believes that everything that he sees over in the magic world can be explained with science, so he uses science to try and solve cases over in the magical world. This is an ingenious series. I am very excited to continue reading it, and as I said, I would have put it way higher on the list, except only 2 issues of it have come out so far. And speaking of series that only 2 issues have come out, Afterlife with Archie. This is another incredibly frustrating series because it's one of the best horror series out there. Yes, I know, for anybody who hasn't read this, the idea that Archie has one of the best horror series out there is a hard concept to accept, but trust me, this is a genuinely creepy series, and the development between these characters is stuff that you don't even see on The Walking Dead. But yeah, man, only 2 issues came out this year. This thing has been going for years now, and yet every single year, fewer and fewer issues come out. I'm starting to get mad at you, Afterlife with Archie, but I can't lie, those 2 issues that came out were still pretty darn good, so you make the list. Number 42, Giant Days. This is a series that I absolutely love, and I have recommended to so many people out there. However, I won't lie, it's kind of a hard series to get into because it's a slice of life series. It's one of those series where the whole point of it is just to be a fun, quirky, real-world look at these 3 friends going through college, trying to graduate, making relationships, going on their own little personal adventures throughout the year. Doesn't sound like anything special, but what makes it special is that the characters are just so darn charming, and if you stick with the book, every single issue makes you fall in love with these characters more and more. It's one of those series where you form a connection to these characters as you read about them, and you learn all their interesting little jokes and their interesting little quirks. So as you start to see them growing and developing, yeah, man, you kind of want to continue to see that. You want to stick with them. You want to see where their stories are going to go. Alright, now prepare for the most controversial entry on this entire list. At number 41, Saga. Yes, I know, every single best of the year list out there always puts this book in the top 10. It's always been in the top 10 every single year, and I love this series. I would not be putting it in this top 10 if I did not genuinely love this series. However, yeah, this year I don't think it lived up to previous years. This year I started to see a couple flaws in there, and I'm not really going to go into those because this is all about celebrating books. I just had to say that simply because I know there are a lot of people wondering, why on earth is this all the way down at number 41? This should be in the top 10. Hey, as I said, this year, I had a couple of problems with the book. However, as I said, I still have to put it on this list because what Brian K. Vaughan has done with Saga is something that's really ingenious. He has so many different characters in this book, and every single one of them is living their own unique story, and as this comic expands over the course of years, you get to see their stories go in crazy directions, and the greatest thing about it is that you know eventually they're all going to intersect back together. At number 40 is Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Even after a year, this book has not lost its charm. There is something about the duo of Ryan North and Erica Henderson coming together that is able to make every single character in this book just incredibly unique and charming. There is no other book out there quite like this. At number 39, Captain America, Sam Wilson. I know everybody else is talking about the Steve Rogers series, and yeah, I think that series is pretty darn good, and it's a good complementary series to this one. However, to me, the Sam Wilson series is the Captain America book that we need right now. I love that Nick Spencer is using this series to address so many real-world issues, and issues that I never thought I would see getting addressed inside of a comic book, and he doesn't just come right in here and address it as, oh, this is horrible and we must stop it. He addresses it from a very real-world stance of, it's terrible, how can we actually take actions in the real world to try and stop it? I think this book really has become the Captain America series of the 21st century. At number 38 is Flash. Now, the Flash is an incredibly popular character thanks to his television series, so I am glad that after all this time, he finally has a book to match. The new Flash series not only treats Barry Allen with the respect that he deserves, showing him as the Flash as a symbol of hope, but also as Barry Allen, a CSI agent who actually does care about his job and is really good at his job, but it treats every character from the Flash universe with respect. This was the year that the new Wally West really finally became Kid Flash, and listen, when this new Wally West popped up, people were kind of iffy on him because he wasn't really being treated with respect. This year, they got Wally West right. This is the year that they made this a character that people want to read about. At number 37, The Art of Charlie Chan Hawk-Chai. This is the autobiography of Singapore's #1 leading comic book artist, and it details his long career that spanned over 60 years. And it examines every single story that he put out and how it was all a metaphor for the history of Singapore. And the amazing thing about this series is that this is not a real person. And I kept second guessing that all throughout this series because they kept collecting so many samples of his previous works. I kept looking at it and going, well, the style is different, but it really does look like this was drawn by Sonny Liew, who is the guy who drew the rest of this series. However, they go into so much detail about this person's life, I had to keep second guessing whether or not this was a real person. But when I eventually realized, no, this is a fake person, I realized what this book really was. This is Sonny Liew paying tribute to every major event in Singapore's history from the past 60 years, and he said, what would it be like if there was a comic book artist at those times who was able to portray these events in this medium? Basically, what he did is he gave you a history lesson in the format of a biography around a fictional person. That is one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen in a comic. At number 36, Shaft, Imitation of Life. Shaft is one bad mother comic book. This series is everything that a Shaft book should be. And I'm not talking about the Shaft films. These Shaft comics were based on Shaft from the books, who was a lot harder and a lot more edgy than the Shaft in the films. And this is the sequel to the previous Shaft series from last year, which was also amazing. And this miniseries actually attempted to finally address how different the book version of Shaft was from the movie version by having Shaft actually go to a film where they are making a movie about a black detective in the 1970s, and he's hired to be a consultant on there, and he's basically looking at what is the metaphor for the Shaft movies and pointing out how stupid they are and how terrible and inaccurate they are, all the while being one of the biggest badasses in all of comics. This book had style, this book had substance, and it was just oozing with cool on every single page. At number 35 is Bitch Planet. Now, I have spoken about this book every single year that I have done one of these top 100s because, yeah, it is an incredibly good book that deserves to be up here because it is one of those books that speaks to an audience who feels like they have not had their voices heard. It is a book for everybody out there who feels like they have been told to get in line and they don't want to. This book has rallied so many people around the battle cry of non-compliance, and it's been great to see that. But this year, that was especially important considering it was an election year, and they did address that in this series. The only reason why I can't really put this book higher is because I wish more issues of it came out. This is a book that does kind of have an infrequent release schedule, so yeah, I can't really put much higher than this, but make no mistake, if 12 issues of this had come out this year, it would have been way higher on the list. At number 34 is Backstagers. This book was an absolute delight. It is the story of a young boy going to a new school, and he really finds his calling when he joins the stage crew at the local theater. However, it's not just a regular stage crew, as they get all of their supplies from an interdimensional doorway that goes into an infinite labyrinth that just spreads out into space and time. Yeah, it is a super creative book that is an absolute love letter to anybody who has ever worked backstage at a theater. And at number 33, another love letter from Boom Comics, Goldie Vance. This is a love letter to Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys, to any of those old-timey detective novels, but also to old noir detective movies. However, not the really dark like Sunset Boulevard style, no, more the upbeat, lighthearted, hey, we've got a plucky young kid and she's gonna go out there and save the day, all thanks to just her gumption and pep. This book is fun and it's got some of the most likable characters in any series this year. Number 32, Animosity. Listen, I love the whole post-apocalyptic world setting that a lot of comic books take on, but I'm starting to get bored of seeing the same old thing over and over again. I mean, how many times can I see a story where zombies have taken over the world, or there's some new virus that's wiping everyone out? It's time that people got creative with their post-apocalyptic stories, and Marguerite Bennett got creative with this. This is a story where one day, out of nowhere, every single animal on the planet gained human-level sentience. Every single animal learned to think and speak on the level of a human. And what I love is that so many of the animals rose up and rebelled and started attacking the humans, but a lot of them actually kind of like the humans. A lot of them are on the human side. It's a very complex thing. It's almost like Animal Farm meets The Walking Dead. Number 31, Archie. Now in 2015, when Mark Waid came onto the Archie series, everybody was praising it for how it was a brand new take on Archie, but at the same time it captured everything that they loved about the character from the old series. I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was great. It wasn't until about the end of that year that I was like, you know what, actually is something here. It actually is pretty darn good. This is the year that it became great for me. When Veronica Lodge popped up in the town of Riverdale, I thought, yeah, she's kind of a jerk, I have no attachment to her. This was the year in which I actually started to care about Veronica Lodge. This was the year in which Mark Waid was able to make me look at a character that I had been hating the previous year and really care about her. The previous year, I had been rooting for Archie to get back with Betty. Now I was rooting for Archie to stay away from Betty so that he could stay with Veronica. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but Mark Waid made me, someone who never cared about Archie, actually really get invested in the love triangle of Archie. Number 30, Power Man and Iron Fist. Oh my goodness, did I love this series. I actually made a video talking about how good this series was, and I've been hearing from you guys all year long about how much you've been enjoying it too, so I had to put it on this list. This thing captured everything that made the old Power Man and Iron Fist fun, that sense of style, that sense of camaraderie between these characters, but it updated to the modern day, but it didn't lose anything. This is a book that gives us the best of both worlds. It gives us what was great about the old series and creates something brand new with it. And as I said, I have to repeat myself, the camaraderie between Power Man and Iron Fist is so much fun. I love seeing that Power Man is now older, he's more mature, he's got a daughter, he's trying to be responsible, and Iron Fist is kind of that buddy who just never really grew up and he just wants to recapture the old fun days. Honestly, this is one of the best dynamics out of any duo in a comic. At number 29, Tom King's Batman. I don't mean to praise a series by condemning another series first, but I feel like I have to stop and say something about this series, which is that I know so many people love the Scott Snyder Batman. For years, people have been applying it as DC's best book, as the definitive series for Batman. I always had problems with Scott Snyder's Batman. There were so many things that he did with Batman that I'm not going to get into it here, but it just wasn't my Batman. This series is my Batman. It is great seeing Batman being a detective, being someone who actually cares about other people, being somebody who is loaded up with gadgets but doesn't just have gadgets that solve all his problems. This is a Batman who still has to do work. I loved everything that happened in the beginning of this series with Gotham and Gotham Girl, and from there it went into a new storyline involving Catwoman that has shown a relationship between Batman and Catwoman that really made you understand those two. It really made you feel the connection between them. As I said, this is the Batman book I had been waiting for. Well, it's one of the Batman books I've been waiting for. Don't worry, I'll talk about the other one in the next episode. At number 28 is Wonder Woman. I just mentioned the Batman series is the Batman series I've been waiting for. This is the Wonder Woman series I've been waiting for. Greg Rucka coming in here and dividing up every single issue into a story that was told in the present and then a story that was told in the past, retelling Wonder Woman's origin story. It captured everything that I needed to see about this character, because Wonder Woman is one of those characters just like Batman or Superman who have been around for so long. There have been many different interpretations of them, and none of those interpretations are wrong, but when you start writing about these characters, you kind of have to decide which interpretation am I going to follow. Greg Rucka came in here and said, why not both? So in the present day, we see Wonder Woman being a badass. We see her just going around kicking lots of giant monster ass. But in the past, we see her being that person who is full of hope, full of love. That person who actually would leave her Paradise Island to go and help people who she never even knew existed until a few days ago. And the relationship between her and Steve Trevor is being captured better in here than it has in any other DC comics in years. Number 27, Spider-Woman. Dennis Hopeless has taken the character of Spider-Woman and made her one of my favorite characters in all of Marvel Comics throughout the course of his run on this book. And this is the year that he took this character and made her a mother, and so many people were worried about what it would mean for her character. He nailed it, in my opinion. This series treated her pregnancy with absolute respect. Dennis Hopeless himself just had a child right before this, and you can tell he sat down with his wife and went, "Tell me everything that you experienced. I'm going to put it in this book," because I've never read about a character's pregnancy and about having a child in a book and had it feel more realistic, have it feel more down to earth. Like, you can actually feel this is stuff that real people go through, and he was able to adapt that into the story of a superhero without missing a beat. And at number 26 is Monstrous. This is one of the best fantasy series out there on the market. It is the story of a world where fairy tale creatures and monsters are kept as slaves and second-class citizens to humans, and like most good fantasy series, it does not shy away from using all the fantasy elements as metaphors to tell much larger stories, and it has set up such a huge journey for our protagonist to go through over the next couple of years that it really has me wanting to stick with this for the years to come. That's it for part 2 of our look at the top 100 comics of 2016. Come back next time, in which we are going to cover number 25 through 11. And remember to let me know your thoughts on these books in the comments down below, and you can always contact me on Twitter and Tumblr at Professor Thorgy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and make sure you come back next time.